My career was being systematically dismantled, and the architect of my destruction was the nicest guy in the office. He was the one who knew everyone's coffee order, the one who organized the charity bake sale, the one whose smile seemed so genuine you'd trust him with your house keys. All the while, he was methodically laying the groundwork to ruin me, and he watched the chaos unfold with the perfect performance of a concerned friend. This is the story of how I stopped being the target, started being the hunter, and unmasked him in front of everyone he'd ever fooled. I'm a senior project lead at a high-pressure cloud computing firm in the tech hub of Seattle's South Lake Union. My world is a meticulously balanced equation of development sprints, client expectations, and the quiet satisfaction of shaping raw code into something powerful and seamless. For nearly a year, my life was Project Nova. This wasn't just an app, it was a revolutionary backend platform for a national healthcare provider designed to manage patient data with unprecedented security and speed. This was a legacy project, the kind that gets your name mentioned in boardrooms. A success here meant a direct path to a director role, a major step up in my career. My team was the best of the best, a curated group of our company's sharpest minds. For 6 solid months, we were crushing it, hitting every target with time to spare. Then the gremlins appeared. They were subtle at first, like tiny cracks in a solid foundation. A key module that had passed all its unit tests would suddenly fail a build with a single nonsensical line of code corrupted. A set of user permissions, carefully configured and locked down by our security architect, would inexplicably revert to a more open, older setting, causing minor data leaks in our development environment. We'd slip on a minor deadline, then a more important one. Each time I'd rally the team. We'd power through long nights, fueled by lukewarm coffee and stubborn pride, and we'd fix it. I told myself this was just the reality of a project this complex. Big risks mean big pressure, and pressure can cause mistakes. I was making excuses to my superiors, and worse, I was starting to believe them myself. The incidents, however, became more targeted and harder to explain away as simple errors. They felt deliberate. The breaking point arrived just 2 weeks before a critical demonstration for the client's board. We had our beta environment running perfectly. It was a thing of beauty. My lead engineer, Ben, and I had personally stress tested it until the early hours of the morning. It was bulletproof. The next day, I walked into the office to find him staring at his screen, his face drained of all color. The entire data import file, a massive data set of anonymized patient records we needed for the demo, had been deleted from the staging server. Not corrupted, not moved. It was just gone. The fallout was swift and brutal. I had to stand in our largest conference room, facing our own executive team and the client's leadership, and explain that a catastrophic and seemingly random data loss had made our multi-million-dollar demonstration impossible. The expressions in the room were a gut-wrenching blend of pity and utter disappointment. My boss, Robert, a man who measured the world in results, pulled me aside after the meeting. "Amelia," he said, his voice quiet but vibrating with suppressed anger. "I don't know what's happening on your watch, but you're making this entire company look incompetent. Fix it. Now." In that moment, the anxiety that had been eating at me for months transformed into a cold, hard resolve. I was not incompetent. My team was not sloppy. We were being sabotaged. As I drove home through the relentless Seattle drizzle that evening, a feeling of absolute certainty settled in my stomach. I was done playing defense. It was time to fight back. My first move was to build a digital fortress. I established a completely separate system for our work. Every code commit, every design document, every status update was backed up twice daily to a personal encrypted hard drive that I carried with me at all times. I started keeping a detailed log in a physical notebook, noting every system error, every strange interaction, every single event that didn't feel right, all with a precise timestamp. I began staying late, long after the chatter and footsteps had faded, just sitting in the quiet glow of the server room, watching and listening. And in that silence, the pattern began to emerge. Thomas! He was a senior marketing specialist working in a different division 2 floors below us. On paper, he had zero reason to be in our secure development area or to have any involvement with Project Nova, but he was always around. He'd be in our floor's kitchen late at night, supposedly grabbing a snack. He would take a long, looping path to the restroom that conveniently took him past the desks of my key engineers. He was handsome in a clean-cut, approachable way, known for his easy laugh and for bringing in a box of treats from a famous local bakery. We were on friendly terms, but now looking back, his affability felt like a carefully constructed act. A specific memory resurfaced, and what had felt like kindness at the time now felt menacing. A month before, I'd been venting to him about a persistent software bug. He had listened with a face full of concern, even putting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Wow, Amelia, that sounds like an insane amount of stress," he'd said, his voice smooth and sympathetic. "I don't know how you manage a project of this scale. It must require a very specific kind of mental fortitude." I'd taken it as a compliment. Now I could hear the subtle implication, the poison in the words suggesting that maybe, just maybe, I didn't have what it took. Random anomalies are just noise. A pattern is a signal. I had to connect his physical presence to our digital disasters. I dedicated an entire weekend to my new obsession, diving deep into our company's server logs. Our IT security policy was our saving grace. It logged every single file access on our shared servers, stamping each action with a username and an IP address. It was a soul-crushing task, sifting through terabytes of data, cross-referencing the timestamps of our project failures with the system logs. My heart hammered against my ribs with each new discovery. And there he was, Tuesday, 10:40 p.m., the night our code module was corrupted. A single file access to that specific directory from a user in the marketing group, Thomas Green. Friday, 2:30 a.m., just before our user permissions were mysteriously reverted. A remote login to our main development server originating from an IP address block assigned to the marketing department, Thomas Green. Again and again, his digital footprint was all over the crime scenes. He was exploiting a security oversight, a broad access permission granted to a few marketing employees for a poorly defined brand asset review initiative. He was using it to slip into our project's central nervous system. His methods were brilliantly insidious. He never did anything catastrophic enough to immediately point to malice. He'd introduce a tiny, frustrating error, a single misplaced character in a configuration script, a slight alteration to a security setting. His goal was to make it look like technical incompetence or simple human error. It was a masterful campaign of gaslighting. I knew this evidence, while damning to me, was still circumstantial. A man as smooth as Thomas could easily talk his way out of it. "Oh, I must have clicked the wrong server link." Or, "Wow, I had no idea that folder was sensitive. Our network is so confusing." I needed something more. I needed a smoking gun. I needed to catch him in the act. So I built him the perfect mousetrap. I brought in my lead engineer, Ben, the only person I trusted without question at this point. Together we constructed a digital honeypot. It was a simple, blank document, but the genius was in its name. We titled it to sound like the most explosive secret in the company, something like Project Nova Confidential Audit Findings. It was a name that promised scandal, a file that would be utterly irresistible to a jealous employee looking for leverage. But the real trap was an invisible script we embedded in the document. The moment the file was opened, it was programmed to silently report who opened it, from where, and if they tried to copy or delete it. With the trap laid, I dangled the bait. In our main project channel on the company's internal messaging app, a public space I knew Thomas monitored, I posted a carefully worded message. "Team, important, please do not access or move the new internal audit document in the main project folder. It contains highly sensitive data from Robert's review and is for my eyes only before our Monday meeting." I made it sound forbidden, crucial, and scandalous. I didn't have to wait long. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was sitting in a coffee shop in Capitol Hill trying and failing to focus on a novel when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ben. The trap was sprung. The alert showed the username was his, Thomas Green. The IP address traced back to a residential internet connection in Ballard, right where I knew he lived. He had taken the bait from the comfort of his own apartment on a weekend. The log showed he had opened our empty file. But the final perfect nail in his coffin was what came next. The log registered an attempt to copy the file to an external device, a clear and fireable breach of company data policy. Then, about an hour later, a new entry appeared. The file had been deleted from the server. He had opened the trap, found nothing inside, and in a panic, tried to scrub the evidence of his trespass. A wave of pure cold victory washed over me. It was done. I had him. The next morning, I sent a single email to Robert's executive assistant asking for a 15-minute urgent meeting. I walked into his large corner office, sat down across his polished desk, and placed my laptop in front of him. I didn't say anything at first. I just opened a presentation I had prepared through the night. It was a clear, step-by-step timeline of every act of sabotage, each one meticulously paired with a screenshot of the server log. I walked him through the whole sordid affair, finishing with the clean, undeniable data from my digital sting operation. I watched his face as he scrolled through the evidence. I had braced myself for shock, maybe even a hint of disbelief. What I saw instead was a look of profound, bone-deep weariness. He leaned back in his chair and dragged a hand over his face. "I had a feeling," he said, his voice a low rumble. "I had a feeling it was him." He then told me the piece of information that made it all make sense. Thomas was the CEO's nephew. That one fact explained a long history of him skirting consequences. He had been adjacent to other unfortunate incidents in the past. Other promising projects that hit strange roadblocks, other high-flying employees who suddenly seemed to lose their edge. But Thomas was always so charming, so helpful, and nothing was ever concrete. Management had always, perhaps subconsciously, given him the benefit of the doubt. "That can't matter now," I said, my voice unwavering. "He deliberately tried to destroy a multi-million-dollar project. He tried to ruin my career and the careers of my team members. A family connection can't be allowed to bury this. I want a meeting, not a quiet chat with HR. I want a formal project debrief. I want every single person on my team and every manager who saw us struggle in that room when I present what he did." Robert looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something new in his eyes. Respect. He gave a slow, firm nod. "You've earned it, Amelia. Set it up." The day of the meeting, the air in the main conference room was electric with tension. My entire team was there, along with managers and leads from across the division, and sitting at the long table, right in my line of sight, was Thomas. He was the picture of cool confidence. Leaning back in his chair, sharing a quiet joke with the person beside him, a faint, smug smirk playing on his lips. He looked like a man who thought he was about to watch my career go down in flames. His smirk didn't last. I began my presentation not with an accusation but with praise. I commended my team, highlighting their incredible talent and tireless dedication in the face of what I called unprecedented technical headwinds. Then I began the timeline. Click. The corrupted code module. Click. The reverted user permissions. Click. The deleted data import file. With each slide, another piece of his secret campaign was exposed. Then I overlaid the server access logs. A low murmur rippled through the room as one name, Thomas Green, appeared again and again and again, glowing on the projection screen. I saved my final piece of evidence for the grand finale. And that, I announced, my voice clear and steady, brings us to this past Sunday. I showed them the bait. I showed them the log of Thomas accessing the file from his home IP address. I showed the log of the attempted copy to an external drive. I showed the log of the subsequent deletion. My final slide was a single, stark screenshot of the access log, blown up to fill the entire screen, his username and IP address there for everyone to see. The room fell into a deep, stunned silence. Thomas's handsome, confident face had crumpled. It was a blotchy, pale mask of pure panic. His easy charm had vanished, replaced by the wild-eyed look of a cornered animal. Robert's voice cut through the stillness. "Thomas, is there anything you wish to add?" He tried to speak, but his voice, normally so smooth, was a ragged, cracking mess. "This is a lie. It's a conspiracy. Her project was failing, and she needed a scapegoat." He pointed a shaking finger at me. "She's the one who faked these logs. It's all fake." But the act was hollow. The evidence was too specific, too overwhelming. His charisma was a thin veneer, and it had cracked, revealing the desperate, whining fraud underneath. As he sputtered, something amazing happened. A senior engineer from another team, a quiet woman named Sarah, cleared her throat. "Actually," she said, her voice soft but firm. Every head in the room swiveled to her. Thomas looked like he'd been slapped. A year ago, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger, I was the lead on Project Chimera. We had the strangest problems. Key configuration files would get corrupted right before a major deployment. Our database schemas would be subtly altered overnight. We never figured it out. The project was delayed by 6 months, and I was reassigned. She took a deep breath and looked directly at Thomas. Now that I think about it, you were always stopping by, Thomas, offering to help. It was like a dam had burst. A manager from the cybersecurity division, a man named David, leaned forward. Wait a minute, my team handled a platform migration 2 years ago that went completely off the rails, cost the company a fortune. We blamed a freak software incompatibility, but the diagnostics never quite made sense. He stared at Thomas. You had just transferred to marketing from our department. You still had your old admin privileges for another month. One by one, others began to speak. It was a chain reaction of buried suspicions and sudden awful clarity, a litany of mysterious failures, of corrupted data, of promising careers that had inexplicably stalled, stretching back for years. And the one common thread, the one person always on the sidelines with a sympathetic smile and a cup of coffee, was Thomas. He had been a slow-acting poison in the company, picking his targets and inflicting just enough damage to make them stumble while he remained the lovable, helpful guy from marketing. He let out a pathetic, empty laugh. You can't be serious. This is a witch hunt. He turned his pleading eyes to Robert. Sir, you can't actually believe this. Robert stood up slowly, his face like granite. Thomas, I don't just believe it. I am ashamed that we let it go on for this long. You were given every advantage here, and you used those advantages to tear people down. The last bit of defiance drained out of him. He slumped in his chair. I just wanted to get noticed, he mumbled, his voice a bare whisper. I've been here 7 years. I watched everyone else get the big projects, the promotions. My work is good, but it's never the brilliant work. I just thought, if they stumbled a bit, maybe management would finally see me. I just wanted to be valued. There it was, the small, ugly envy that had fueled his entire destructive campaign. I felt nothing for him, not anger, not even pity, just the clean, bright light of vindication. For months, he made me question my own competence, my own sanity. I wasn't the problem, and now every single person in that room knew it. Robert was decisive. Thomas, please collect your personal effects. Security will escort you from the building. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. For a split second, a look of pure venom flashed across Thomas's face, but it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a profound, empty defeat. He stood, pushed in his chair with a soft scrape on the floor, and walked out of the room, leaving a vast silence in his wake. In the weeks that followed, a formal corporate investigation uncovered the true extent of his sabotage across at least 4 different divisions. The CEO himself called me to offer a personal apology, both for his nephew's actions and for the institutional blindness that allowed him to operate for so long. With Thomas's toxic influence gone, Project Nova didn't just recover, it thrived. We sailed past our new deadlines. The final launch was a spectacular success and the client was thrilled. My reputation wasn't just restored, it was forged anew in the fire. A month later, Robert called me back into his office. Amelia, your integrity and your resolve under that kind of pressure were extraordinary, he said. You didn't just save your project, you performed surgery on this organization and removed a cancer we didn't even know we had. That isn't just project management, that's leadership. He slid a formal offer across the desk. It was for the newly created position of Director of Technical Integrity. Thomas had wanted to be seen so badly that he was willing to ruin people for it. In the end, he got his wish. He became a company legend, a cautionary tale whispered in the halls about a man eaten alive by his own inadequacy. And I got the recognition he craved, not by tearing others down, but by rebuilding what he tried so desperately to burn.